Today, we're really digging into the Women in Leadership webinar 2025.
Yeah, sounds fascinating.
We've got some great excerpts, lots of different voices and perspectives.
Okay.
And our mission here really is to pull out the key strategies, get a feel for how women's leadership roles are shifting, the challenges still out there, and what empowerment looks like now.
Makes sense. Where should we start?
Well, let's jump right in.
Okay. The first thing that really comes through from the webinar is this dual picture. Yes, progress, more women in leadership roles, which is great.
Definitely.
But at the same time, a very clear recognition that, we're not there yet. The journey's ongoing.
Right. It's not just about celebrating the wins, is it? It's about looking closely at the hurdles that are still very much present.
Exactly. And understanding the actual impact women are having beyond just the numbers.
Yeah, one of the first points that really stood out was that concrete increase, women actually reaching these top positions.
Yeah.
It's happening.
It is. And that visibility, it sort of naturally shines a brighter light on where gender inequality still persists.
And the webinar also mentioned some pretty encouraging trends, too, like the growth of these women's circles.
Ah, the support network.
Yeah, basically places for connection, for guidance, and also a bigger push for male mentorship.
That male mentorship point is interesting. It suggests maybe a wider understanding that this isn't just a women's issue.
Right. It needs allyship.
Yeah.
From everyone.
Exactly. There was also a brief mention, quite intriguing, of a male perspective that talked about tackling gender equity as creating a cost center.
A cost center.
That's different.
It is maybe a very direct sort of business case way of looking at the financial side of getting that gender balance right.
It certainly makes you think about the different angles people are coming from, the motivations behind it all.
Absolutely.
And building on that idea of balance, one speaker, Seema, made a really strong point about starting gender equality education early, from the beginning.
Yeah. Her vision was this true 50-50 society, and she argued, you have to nurture that right from the start, tackling imbalances in schools, across different industries.
That's such a crucial long-term view. It's not just about who's leading now, but shaping how the next generation understands equality fundamentally.
Exactly. So moving on to workplace bias, which, let's face it, is still a huge factor.
Always is.
Carol shares something powerful. She said she found huge inspiration working places where strong women leaders were already, visible and established.
That role model effect.
Precisely. And her key strategy, women supporting women, actively. She really emphasized collaboration, working together for the good of the organization rather than, needless competition.
That focus on collaboration is so important, isn't it? For actually breaking down those internal biases and creating a culture where women can, thrive together.
It really shifts the focus from just individuals trying to climb up, maybe fighting for limited spots, to everyone growing and having a bigger impact collectively.
Who said?
And Charmaine brought up something maybe more subtle, but just as important. How we stereotype based on appearance, often unconsciously.
Oh, definitely. The subtle stuff.
She argued that just recognizing those ingrained biases is key if we want to change the narrative around women leaders, moving past snap judgments.
Yeah, that really speaks to how deep-seated some of these biases are. It takes constant conscious effort to spot them and challenge them, both in how we see others and, frankly, in ourselves, too.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. The digital world, how is that changing things?
Digital transformation. Big impact.
Sarah pointed out that it's actually created new paths for women, things like remote work, more global connection.
Right. More flexibility.
And she argued this allows leadership to be judged more on merit, on innovation, and less on just, being physically present in that old hierarchical structure.
That's the potential, isn't it, for digital tools to kind of level the playing field. If you reduce the need for that traditional office presence, maybe talent can rise based purely on skills and what they contribute.
Regardless of where they are or their career path so far. Carol also mentioned a practical upside. Technology, especially things like meeting platforms, has actually helped some people with work-life balance.
That's good to hear.
But she also flagged a really big challenge: the gap in female digital literacy.
Yes. That's critical.
It really is. We need to address that so women can actually use these digital opportunities fully, which makes it initiatives like She Invest, focused on financial empowerment through digital platforms, so important.
Absolutely. Closing that digital literacy gap is just fundamental for women's economic power today. It's not just about knowing how to use the
It's
tools.
about strategy.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Understanding them, leveraging them, creating opportunities.
Then Seema brought up the flip side of being always connected, that constant pressure.
Always on culture.
Your
Yeah.
phone buzzing, emails pinging.
Yeah.
She basically said the answer is prioritizing self-care, focusing on what really matters.
It's such a tension, isn't it, between the convenience of connectivity and the real danger of burnout. And that's maybe especially relevant for women who, as the webinar might have hinted, often still juggle more responsibilities outside of work.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And Sarah echoed that, saying how setting clear boundaries with tech was crucial for her.
Like switching off notifications.
Yeah, managing those demands. She actually found that setting those limits improved her work quality and her own well-being.
See, that shows productivity and well-being aren't opposites. Sometimes setting those boundaries makes you more effective.
It's about being intentional, right?
Yeah.
Not letting the tech dictate your time.
Exactly. And Melissa added another layer, understanding your own work rhythms, your cycles.
And managing FOMO,
Oh,
that
yeah.
fear of missing out.
Oh, that's huge in the digital age. Her point was, not everything needs an immediate reply.
That takes discipline.
It does. But learning to filter what's truly urgent versus what can wait, that's a vital skill now. It's about taking back some control.
Okay, so given all this digital change, how do we make sure women are leading it, not just participating?
Good question. Carol's take was about confidence in networking, especially in tech. She mentioned things like women in IT forums, how valuable they are for celebrating success and really empowering women to step up into leadership in that specific area.
It highlights how important those communities and visible role models are. Seeing other women succeed in tech can be, well, really inspiring and offer practical insights.
Definitely. And a really critical point was raised about involving women in tech design.
Right from the start.
Yes, because if women's needs and perspectives aren't baked in from the beginning, the tools might just not work well for them.
Makes sense. And Seema encouraged women to just share their ideas, even with that self-doubt that creeps in.
Yeah, get the ideas out there.
She said, look, making mistakes is part of learning. Hesitating, not trying. That's the real barrier.
Which really underlines why we need diverse voices at every single stage of innovation. If you leave out women's perspectives in design, you risk creating things that are inherently biased or just don't meet everyone's needs.
Shifting slightly now, governance came up. Board meetings.
Yeah, the boardroom.
The point made was they should really focus on strategy, big picture oversight, not get dragged down into the day-to-day operational stuff.
Keeping it high level.
Yeah, it boils down to having clear roles, clear accountability everywhere in an organization.
That clarity is key for effective leadership, making sure time and energy go towards the big strategic goals and everyone knows what they're responsible for.
And there was a personal angle, too. The moderator shared, quite openly, about overcoming their own self-doubt
How did they do it?
by actively using mentors, building support networks. That support system was apparently crucial for rebuilding confidence.
It shows the power of connection, doesn't it? Both seeking help and mentoring others.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And the key takeaway lesson, respect comes from being accountable, from actually delivering results consistently.
Yeah, credibility isn't just given. It's earned through reliability and, well, getting things done.
So finally, the webinar wrapped up with some really solid advice for future leaders.
Always good to get practical tips.
Sima really stressed developing those human skills, things like active listening, empathy.
The soft skills, which aren't really soft at all.
Exactly. She emphasized that respecting diversity, fostering inclusion, these aren't just nice-to-haves, they're core leadership traits now.
And becoming more critical all the time, wouldn't you say? In our complex world, you need those skills to build strong teams, create inclusive workplaces where everyone feels they can contribute.
Totally agree. And Charmaine shared a daily practice, reflecting on feedback, even the critical stuff.
Taking it on board.
Yeah, seeing it as a continuous way to learn and just shape your own leadership style.
That really speaks to having a growth mindset, right? Finding the lesson in every experience, good or bad.
Then Sarah's advice was super simple, but really powerful. I am enough.
That's potent. A great affirmation against that self-doubt we talked about earlier.
It really is. It's about building that internal sense of worth, knowing your capabilities. And Carol finished the advice segment focusing on building your personal brand. How? By following through consistently on what you say you'll do
Walking the talk.
and embodying servant leadership, leading by putting the needs and growth of your team first.
Yeah, that focus on integrity, on serving others, it points to a leadership style that values the team's well-being and overall impact more than just individual glory.
So wrapping this all up, this deep dive into the Women in Leadership webinar 2025, it's really shown a light on, well, the progress, yes, but also the hurdles that remain.
And the huge impact of the digital age, both the opportunities and the pressures.
And the absolute basics of good governance, accountability, and just practical advice for anyone wanting to lead.
I think the main thread connecting it all is just how multifaceted women's leadership is today. It's not just about individual skills, though that's important.
It's also about systems.
Exactly. Supportive systems, tackling biases head on, and really proactively adapting to how work and tech are changing.
So for you listening, we hope you'll mull over some of these strategies we've talked about. Think about how they might resonate in your own context, whatever your agenda or wherever you are in your career.
Consider the power of those small, consistent actions, the importance of challenging biases when you see them, how you can embrace technology but also set those crucial boundaries.
Yeah. What was the one thing from our discussion today that really struck a chord with you? What's maybe one area you feel inspired to explore a bit more, something to think about?